Hello Gemini, welcome to your reading. My name is Maria and this is a tarot intuitive story for you if you have Gemini anywhere dominantly in your chart, if you're a cross-watcher or maybe something else drew you here, and if the story resonates then surely you were guided here. This reading very clearly is about you going through a healing / upgrade that is that wants to free you, definitely wants to free you from some circumstances that you're really tired of. You would like this new freedom. You're really rooting for it, hoping for it, working for it, focused on it. It's just that I think it's going slower than you would like, or it's a little more it's a little more detail oriented than you hoped it was gonna be. It's like you can't get away with even the slightest little itty bitty little sort of, not necessarily mistake, but just, you know, I don't need to do that thing. I'm just gonna jump over that one, and then it comes back, and it's like no, you need to fix this too. It's like every little part of this thing that you're healing or upgrading needs to be not perfect, but sort of addressed until it is I guess a spirit wants, or your boss wants, or your partner wants, or you, maybe the other twin wants. So it's sort of a painstaking process. You really want the result, but you come out like sort of a little baffled that it has to take this long and that it has to be this meticulous. But very clearly it wants to do something beautiful to you, incredibly beautiful. It would like to free your heart, or your abundance, your sharing and receiving part, sharing and receiving part of your life, and also something more deep and mysterious and soulful, maybe intimate, and But I'm sure you know what it is that's grinding on you. It's sort of like it's getting on your nerves a little bit, that it's taking, that it is this painstaking of a process. Although, of course, you want to reach this glorious state of being, and it is taking you there. Now, what the process is doing, how we could describe it, or how the cards describe it, is that it's taking you from, it's maturing you in a way. It's taking you from this deer that looks very naive. It's sort of some of your naivete is being removed in this process. You're not becoming sort of jaded or cynical or anything. It's just, and you'll retain sort of the I guess the beauty of this state, but it's more like this looks so bashful. And it's like your boss or your partner or whoever is sort of driving this process, your soul, your spirit, wants to take that bashfulness away from you, would like you to stop being this sort of Bambi-esque figure in some part of your life. You might not be like this everywhere, but it could be somewhere where you're sort of not really very confident, or you're not stepping forward very powerfully, and it also comes out sort of as learned helplessness. If you know that term, I believe it's Martin Seligman, who's a psychologist, who has coined the term, and it has to do with when you're for example, children of narcissistic parents, or children who have grown up in households of, it could be abuse or different kinds of just not having enough attention. Maybe your parents worked a lot and they didn't have that much time for you, and so what can happen to somebody who grows up in these sort of difficult circumstances is that typically the parent will have taught them that you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So it's sort of like never being really good enough, or having learned that no matter what you do, you will not be able to change your circumstance. Because, for example, if you had an erratic parent, that parent would have told you off if you weren't good enough at school. But then, if you were doing really well at school, you would be kind of punished too, because they didn't like that either, for you to shine that much. And so I mean, that's an example of how this can play out. And so the psychology of the child is that they'll be like, well, I mean, I can't change my situation anyway, so I'm just gonna not do anything. I'm just gonna stay paralyzed in the corner, or stand like this, standing around like this, and just waiting for whatever's gonna happen. Either all hell is gonna break loose, or who knows, but I don't have the power to change it anyway, so I'm just gonna do nothing. And it's a kind of a clever strategy for the child, because I mean, they're in sort of a double bind, they have no choice. Thing is, that usually follows one, into adulthood, and actually in adulthood you do gain the power to do something about some circumstances, but then at that point your belief is, no, I can't change it, so I'm just gonna not do anything. And it comes out a little bit like that is playing out in some area of your life where you feel sort of powerless, and it comes out also clarified by the hollow bone teachability, spirit wanting to teach you something. It came out in the reverse, as it also did in another reading, making it look very much like a pelvis and the spine, and drawing my attention to this area, the solar plexus and the Hara chakra, sort of the middle, mostly the solar plexus today. But I mean, yeah, Hara chakra also, because that was in play in this one too, which is sort of these energy areas around the belly and the middle of the torso. And they, in an energetical sense, they talk about boundaries and taking your power back. So this whole process that you're going through is really about, it wants to teach you, or they want to teach you, to take your power back. And if we're talking about somebody who's kind of adverse to you, they of course are trying to teach you that in a spiritual sense. I mean, in sort of the 3D, the life that you're playing out, they may be a complete a-hole, or you may experience it like that. But on a spiritual level, they're trying to teach you to set boundaries and to take the power back, and to step from out of this sort of I guess a little powerless state of being, into something more powerful that's coming in a moment, by sort of healing this area, the middle of the spine. You could even be doing this very physically. I mean, you could be going to somebody who knows a healing modality to do something about this, but it looks like it's more than that. It looks like it's actually kind of a complicated process that deals with a lot of layers of your consciousness. And you really want this to move. I mean, you come out here with this the Eight of Inspiration, and it looks like you want to almost like break the sound barrier in order to escape this situation. You really want it to be over. You're really tired of learning about this, and you're really tired of being being challenged on it, and being sort of all the time drawn back. It's a little bit like this is a rubber band, and you're trying to sort of work against a rubber band, and it's, you have a lot of resistance in your forward movement, and it's grating on your nerves, and you're really irritated by it, and you really want it to be over, and you're pushing. I mean, you're really giving it your all to get out of this situation, to move it, or to be done with this chapter of your life. But it is like this chapter is a bigger leap than you know that it is, because here you come out with two horses, the seahorse and this horseman, herald of change. And the movement wants to take you from this to this. So it's quite the shift. I mean, it's a dimensional shift. It's a shift of elements. It's a shift from this that always comes out incredibly vulnerable to me, into this that looks incredibly powerful and full of life, and today also coming out very Sagittarian. I don't know if you have a Sagittarius influence in your chart, or that some person who's a Sagittarian is playing a role, but it has that sort of vibe about it, like conquering the world and moving forward and dun, 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 dun. So they are very different energies, and to take you from this to this is not as easy a process as your, well, I don't know that you would necessarily think it was easy, but you certainly didn't anticipate that it would take this long or be this aggravating and slow and painstaking and all of it. But if you see it in this light, from you going, just even the size of it, if you were to go from a little tiny seahorse to this whole, stallion with a person on it, getting up on its hind legs in a field during the sunset, it is quite the shift, and it's like you haven't yourself seen or understood completely the magnitude of it. And actually, wasn't your last reading talking about this? I think it was about you not being completely aware of how big of a thing you're actually creating, or how big of a change that you're actually going through, or how enormous this upgrade that you're pulling off is. It's really, to you it looks like, yeah, but how can that shift be so different? Because they kind of look like the same size. That's sort of your argument. That's how you're seeing it. That's maybe what you're saying to this person, if there's another person involved, or to spirit. But if you see it, it's because the perspective is completely off. It's because this one is just tiny, 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 and this one is really big and in a completely other element. So it's like and I think maybe they somehow, spirit or some part of your psyche is blocking you from seeing clearly how big of a change this is, because maybe you would have never undertook it if you had understood what it would take out of you, and how long it would take, and how much work it would require, or time, energy, all of it, or how much of your identity it would want to change. You might have sort of backed out of that challenge. You might not have accepted your call to adventure, but I think you at an earlier point sort of imagined it would be a little, faster, all of it. But it is, it's a dimensional paradigm, major shift. It is enormous. It is perhaps the biggest thing you will do in your whole lifetime, is to go through this upgrade, because not only are you sort of upgrading once, I almost see you in this reading like upgrading 5-6 times in a row. Like, it's a major undertaking, and it's like you're doing all of it at once or in one go, and that go is then, for that reason, a little longer or a little bigger than you thought. So you are still in the caterpillar. You would wish you were the butterfly already, but this one has been coming out lately as caterpillar, and here it's kind of like two caterpillars also, because Gemini being a dual sign, this may be you, or it could be something or somebody else that is going through this transformation as well, or is somehow a part of this. Or you could be doing it on two fronts at once, which would also explain why this is not as simple of an operation as you thought it were. So while you are in the caterpillar state, which you still are to probably your irritation, you can't yourself see the change, really. You can see a little bit of change, but you really honestly cannot see how big it is, because it is sort of being hidden from you, or it's dissolving into the landscape. It's it's reminding me of, I once read an interview with Liz Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, where she was being asked, you know, how did Eat, Pray, Love, and the success of it, how did it change your life? And she was like, it was so big that it's incomprehensible still. I still cannot explain it, because it was like everything. It was like a shift of everything. So it's like, how do you explain air, or how do you explain earth? I mean, it's just something to that effect, so enormous that you can't even almost see it, even though it's everywhere, or maybe because it is everywhere. But it wants to tell you that there is intention in this, there is movement, there is direction, and it also, it comes out as sort of a blessed process. And like all of the cells in your body, all of them being sort of filled, of course, with water, I guess, 70% or however much we're filled with water, that all of that water in all of your 40 million cells is sort of moving with intentionality towards this new, I guess, a new, whatever part of your life we're talking about, to transform you into it. And this one also came out with the message, bless the water. Bless the water. So I don't know if that water is something outside of you, or the water that you're drinking, or you're near a body of water that is somehow involved in this, but to me it sounded very much like bless the water that you're drinking, and bless the water that is in your body, to help move this process along. And so then what is so great about this reading is that then the shift happens, and you were sort of here, and you were like, yeah, I'm already a horse, so I'm good to go, just let me go, I can, I'll go. But whoever we're talking about, spirit, your soul, life, is like, no, Gemini, we would like to actually turn you into a whole rider, horseman with a whole full, horse on land, or so you thought. But as it actually turns out, it's making you into this, a Pegasus. It's sort of like, just because of your sheer sort of investment of will and power and raw power that you're investing into it, it's like you end up upgrading even more. Like your boss or your partner or the spirit wanted you to become this, but you're becoming a whole Pegasus. Like this is you, right? The messenger arriving. So it's like you were being asked to move into this, and it's like you go all the way to your full potential. It's almost like, just because you kept pulling this rubber band or this elastic, it's like you end up upgrading even more. And the reason why is because you've just been pushing. But some of the things that you were doing were like small things that was sort of happening in a way out of your sight. And in the meantime, you've just been working. So while the slow things, little things that irritated you and all of it have been happening, you've actually at the same time sort of reached this incredible potential. And that those little things that you've been working on, they sort of become clear all of a sudden. And you come out, so these two cards come out, and this one, because of the way the reading was set up, this one landed quite close to that one. So you can see, it was actually like this. And that, that inconspicuously is sort of side-eyeing the fly. It's like this one wants to eat the fly. But at this point, when you start bursting out of your bubble, when you start sort of arriving at this full potential of yours, it's like all the small things that you've been working on have become so big that it's sort of like the invisibleness cannot eat it up anymore. And suddenly it becomes very, very clear what it is that you have been doing and how important the little things are. You've been feeling like they were not important, and you just wanted to get to the big show. and to move and see results and things like that. But really, this is essential to your process. It's essential that the small things became big enough to sort of match the other bigness that you have in you. Meaning, it's like with this deer, there was some, I guess, underdeveloped part of you that that wasn't really moving forward with the rest of you, and this process has been about upgrading that. But you end up sort of upgrading all of it because you do so much work and you push and push and push and push, because while this fly was being developed, you kind of made a whole horse with wings. And this is going to turn out to be important because this is what Spirit wanted you to do. It wanted you to fix something, or your boss or whatever, that was seemingly small, but that is actually your ability to fly. And these two, they came out, and I usually, when I pick up the message, I typically sort of write down sort of notes, while I'm trying to figure out what's the message here. And I sometimes write them down in my native language, Danish. And I was writing these two, but I did write them in English. I wrote fly and sky, but then when I looked at it again, I read it in Danish, and in Danish it reads fly, sky, meaning escaping on a cloud. Like, that's kind of what we could say, like escaping on a cloud. So it also kind of comes out as plane, because fly also means airplane. So maybe you get to go on an airplane and finally sort of leave that place or that moment. But it has to do, you get, finally you escape the situation, you escape this rubber band that's been pulling you back and back and back, and you start writing a new story for yourself, sort of in the sky, because now you can fly, you can escape and you can fly over sort of the clouds and all of it. So, you can write a new story at this point. And you're going to be so elated. I see you sort of here again above the clouds, just in ecstasy because of having options again, of having movement and options and freedom and room to play. And it's so gorgeous. And then in quick succession, after having upgraded this and having moved a small thing that was also kind of an incredible irritant into a very new and powerful place in your life or in yourself. After doing that and upgrading to this level, it's like you upgrade like that twice again. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so stunning. You become, it's like because usually this comes out as sort of a guide, as a spirit guide or an incredibly high level spiritual being. It's like you rise directly up to this just out of having done all this work and being above the clouds and in the sky and feeling this much happiness and ecstasy. It's like it just upgrades you again, and then upgrades you once more directly after that into an incredible, here's you with your arms over your head, knowledge and comprehension of something incredible, something stunning, kind of like understanding earth or air, or understanding that thing that was so big that it was kind of incomprehensible, reaching a level of unbelievable mastery to understand something that is, it takes so much intelligence and insight to be able to understand something that is that enormous and kind of everywhere and difficult to pin down. And because also this coming out as crop circles, and you having sort of climbed your way all the way up to this mountain to sort of the highest peak, and then reaching an incredible understanding of way much more than you kind of bargained for, but just because of all of the extra work that you put in on top of the challenge that was being put upon you. I mean, if ever I saw a reading about somebody ascending, this is the reading. It's just upgrade upon upgrade upon upgrade. you know, spirit or your boss or whoever asked you to do something, and, you know, to your irritation, you were kind of kept in one place to doing it, but then, you know, while doing it, you reached this, and then this, and then, you know, being on top of the world at the end. So glorious. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this reading, Gemini. Thank you very much for being here. If you liked it, please leave me a thumbs up or a subscription, a comment, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye, Gemini.